Hey guys, so Lord here, back in with another action figure review. Today we'll be continuing our looks at the Transformers Studio Series Revenge of the Fallen Constructicons with the Voyager class Long Haul. This, of course, brought to us by the fine folks over at Hasbro, and I have to say, despite all the wacky Bayformery bizarreness going on with these characters, I think Long Haul here is one of my favorites. Even though he's a little bit more on the basic side, I think he rocks it. I would say out of all of them, him and the deluxe class Scrap Metal are probably the two that are the most basic, followed by Mixmaster and Scrapper. Then after that, probably Overload, and then Scavenger, Hook, and Rampage are just what the fuck. With that being said, speaking of Rampage, move him over here. I do have Rampage handy dandy. He's gonna have to lean against my backdrop because I don't have it. Well, that ain't gonna work. Oop! I folded his crotch down. There we go. Come on. I hate when things are on the same hinge and like hook up when you're trying to move them. But there you go. Keep in mind he's probably supposed to be about a half an inch taller, but I don't have his stand. I don't know what I did with that stupid thing. I thought it was attached to him, but clearly it's not. So really he is supposed to be, flip this thing out again, right around here. So he's a little taller than Long Haul, but he doesn't have a lot going on, other than the fact that he's Rampage and he's pretty freaking weird looking. So, plugging his crotch back in. I honestly feel like something's missing on him, but I really can't figure out where it is. So that's the way it's gonna be. As the song goes, that's just the way it is. So taking a closer look at Long Haul. Another character that they made back in the 09 line. I think the 09 toy is a little better. He's a little bigger. He's got flip out blades, which this one does not have. He's got like little missile pods though, so I guess that's something. But he's very chunky and he's very hindered in terms of articulation. His head is on a ball joint. Move around. His arms are on swivels with hinges, but you gotta be mindful of these wheels. They don't really get out of the way. They barely get out of the way. They can move out, but again, you're really limited there. He does have bicep swivel, but it's very tight. So you're more or less gonna move the shoulder swivel when you move that. And then of course an elbow joint, which gets you a little better 90, so it's not terrible. He actually does have a waist twist. A nice clicky waist twist. Now, I will say, I think the Amazon exclusive from the box set does tighten this up a bit. As you can see, it does have a little wiggle in between the ratchets, which doesn't bother me really, but it'd be nice if it wasn't there. And then he does have the T-jointed hips that will also rotate and hinge in and out. Those are nice and tight. What's not the tightest are his knees. His knees are pretty flaccid. You literally got to stand him at an angle to get him to stand at all. But he does have a knee bend that does work. And he does kind of have chicken legs, but they're very blocky chicken legs. And then he actually has a rocker. One of the few Constructicons that has rocker, if any. And then he does have a toe joint, which I wish clipped down a little tighter. I mean, it does, but I think the Amazon version might have improved some of these issues, so bear that in mind when you're comparing and contrasting and whatnot. But I like him aesthetically. It's a Transformer that I'm going to keep in foot mode for the majority of his life. So it doesn't bother me that some of these joints are loose. The fact that they're not major for combined mode, not really, but, you know, it's nice to be able to play with your figures and they don't want to fall flat on their ass. You know, it's a nice thing, that is. So, standing him up there, I think it is time now that we bring in our two regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibular. I don't know where that came from, but there he is, and there is the infamous 11th Spawn, who, yeah, probably a little taller. Long Haul looks a little bit like a Hellspawn in the face there, with those red eyes and that almost metal mask look going on. So, yeah, with that being said, it's time now that we wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and despite his rather lackluster vehicle mode, which we will take a look-see at in just a moment here, I'm going to stand by my previous statement in saying that good old Long Haul here is by far one of my favorite Constructicons from Revenge of the Fallen from an aesthetic standpoint, because, well, he's the least absurd looking, we'll say. I think if anything, he feels probably the most grounded as far as the Constructicons go. I think both him and maybe Scrap Metal are the more basic of the bunch. But basic isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes people can rock the basic look, and I think Long Haul definitely is an exception to that role. However, I think it is time now that we move right along and take a look at that vehicle mode. And as promised, here's good old Long Haul in his handy-dandy dump truck vehicle mode. Looking pretty snazzy, if I do say so myself, aside from the arms in the back there, and the fact that this bucket doesn't even work. The old toy, the bucket did work, so I don't know why they couldn't make that work this time. I guess it's because he does turn into a foot for Devastator, but if I set him like that, here he is with Rampage, the other foot. You can see he's a little taller. I think the scaling's okay. I don't think it's too bad. This guy can roll, at least. But I think the old Long Haul was a little better. I think the green is probably better on this one. But the old one was pretty decent. He had some flip-out blades and stuff, but at the end of the day, them days are no more. We get what we get, and, well, for the most part, we're upset because we're a bunch of toy collectors on the internet, aren't we? That said, he's at least green like a G1 Devastator Constructicon character, isn't he? So that being said, till next time, catch you guys later.